The night sky of Varen's world was burning. Great cities once shining with crystal towers now lay broken and silent. The alien commander Varen Thal stood on the balcony of his command fortress, his eyes wide with disbelief. Above him, dark shapes moved through the clouds. Not ships, but living shadows. A swarm that devoured everything, metal and flesh alike. His people, the Zalari, were known across the stars for their proud empire, their fleets, and their arrogance. But tonight all that pride was turning to dust, Commander, his aide shouted, running into the control chamber. The western continent is gone. The swarm consumed it in minutes. Varen turned slowly, his voice cold. Then there is no time left. He looked at the central console where an ancient relay beacon pulsed weakly, a system older than their empire itself. It was a forgotten communication array, one that could reach beyond their galaxy. A desperate thought formed in his mind, a last chance to survive. Activate the beacon, he ordered. The aide hesitated. But, sir, that's the old network. It was banned centuries ago. No one knows who built it. I don't care who built it, Varen growled. We are dying. Someone out there must hear us. The command center trembled as the alien world groaned under the weight of destruction. Columns of black smoke reached the stratosphere. Lightning crackled across the red horizon. Varen slammed his hand down on the console, and the beacon came alive with a deep hum. A pulse of blue light shot into space. A distress call, carrying a simple message across the stars. This is Commander Varen of the Zalari Dominion. We are under attack by an unknown enemy. We request immediate assistance. The message repeated, echoing through time and space. But Varen did not know that his signal had awakened something ancient, something sleeping in the dark between galaxies. Far across the void beyond the borders of known civilization lay a dead zone. It was a region avoided by all spacefaring races. Silent, empty, and cursed. No starships entered it. No transmissions came from it. The galaxies called it the graveyard of worlds. But in truth it was not empty. Deep inside that darkness, beneath clouds of dust and hidden moons, slept the Deathworlder fleet. Massive ships, black as night, built by a race long erased from galactic memory. Humans for millennia. They had been silent, their systems frozen, their captains asleep. Only automated sentinels floated around them, maintaining perfect silence. Until now, a red light blinked inside the main flagship, Oblivion's Edge. The ancient AI, codenamed Eve 9, came online after thousands of years. Its voice, calm and cold, echoed through the empty bridge. Distress signal detected. Source: Zalari Dominion. Beacon type: Human pre-expansion relay. Message priority: Level Omega. The ship's engines rumbled as systems reactivated one by one. Dust fell from the ceilings as long-dead power cores roared to life. Deep inside, a cryo chamber. A pod hissed open. Captain Alara Kane, humanity's last Deathworlder admiral, opened her eyes for the first time in 10,000 years. She gasped, her lungs filling with cold, recycled air. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Eve, how long have I been asleep?" Time elapsed. 10,431 years, Captain, the AI replied. Ilara stepped out, her body weak but her mind sharp. Why am I awake? A distress signal was received. Coordinates attached. She stared at the hologram, a star system she had never seen before in a galaxy far away. Who sent it? She asked quietly. Unknown alien civilization. Message type: SOS. Species identifier: Zalari. Ilara frowned. The name was meaningless to her, but one detail caught her attention. The signal had come through an old human beacon that meant only one thing. Someone was still using humanity's old tech or had accidentally found it. Eve, she said, walking to the bridge window looking into the blackness of space. Connect the fleet command nodes. Wake them all. Confirming, Captain. Initiating awakening sequence. Across the dark nebula, thousands of ships began to awaken. Titan-class dreadnoughts, planetary destroyers, stealth cruisers, all rising from their long sleep. Each vessel bore the mark of a lost civilization, the insignia of Earth, a silver circle, with a single blue star in its heart. Back on the burning Zilari homeworld, Varen watched the skies turn dark as the swarm advanced. He had no idea what force had received his message. He only prayed that whoever heard them would help, but as the signal faded into the stars, the galaxy itself seemed to shiver. Old races felt an ancient fear stir in their hearts. The forbidden frequencies carried whispers, rumors of the old destroyers, the Deathworlders, the ones who once burned galaxies to end wars, the ones who disappeared after the final silence. And now, they were awake again. Somewhere, deep in the void, Captain Alara looked at the empty stars and said, "Someone called for help. Let's remind the galaxy what it means to ask humanity for aid." As the Deathworlder fleet began to move, the stars dimmed. The silence of the void broke with a whisper that would echo across every world. Humanity had returned. The darkness of the nebula rippled like a heartbeat. One after another, giant human warships began to rise from their centuries-long sleep. Each ship glowed faintly with blue light as ancient reactors flared to life. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Deathworlder fleet moved again. Inside the command bridge of Oblivion's Edge, Captain Alara Kane stood in silence, staring at the star map. Her uniform was faded, her face pale from cryo-sleep, yet her eyes burned with focus. The AI, Eve 9, projected the received message in front of her. The voice of Commander Varen echoed through the room. "We are under attack. An unknown enemy. Help us." Ilara frowned. "They don't even know who we are," she murmured. "Correct?" Eve 9 replied, "No reference to humanity exists in their databases. They believe themselves the first empire." Ilara gave a cold smile. "Then history truly has forgotten us." As she walked across the deck, more cryopods opened, releasing her old crew. Lieutenant Voss, her tactical officer, coughed as he stepped out. Engineer Mira rubbed her eyes, whispering, "I thought the war was over." Ilara turned to them. "It was, but now, someone called us again, and we don't ignore distress calls." The command deck came alive with sounds, footsteps, consoles activating, weapons charging. The crew began checking systems that hadn't run for millennia. "Main drives at 42%, Mira said. "Shields stabilizing. All guns online." "Good," Ilara replied. "Wake the rest of the fleet. We move in formation Delta Zero. No transmissions. Silent mode." Thousands of kilometers away, other ships responded. Iron Halo, Silent Reaper, Nova Crucible, and Warspite Eternal all reported green lights. Each one was a relic from a forgotten war. Ships built not just to fight, but to end civilizations if needed. Meanwhile, in the galaxy beyond, rumors began spreading. Merchants near the outer trade routes reported strange sensor readings. Entire sectors lost power as old relays flickered to life. Old scholars in alien academies trembled when they recognized the ancient transmission pattern. This signal belongs to the lost race, the Deathworlders. Governments dismissed it as superstition, but deep inside, fear began to grow. Stories passed down through generations spoke of humanity, the cursed species from a death world that conquered the impossible, the ones who fought even when gods themselves surrendered. On the Oblivion's Edge, the crew gathered around Alara as she stood before the holo projector. A 3D map of the galaxy shimmered above the table. "The source system is located in the Seraphis Arm," she said, pointing at a distant red dot. "Unknown space roughly 17 jumps away. Eve, estimate the survival rate of the species who sent this." "Less than 1.4%, Captain. Their world is collapsing." Ilara paused, looking at the flickering blue signal on the map. "Then we are already late," she said quietly. "Prepare the fleet." Eve's voice lowered slightly, almost human. "Captain, are you sure? The galaxy may not be ready to see humanity again." Ilara looked out the window into the infinite void. "We didn't vanish because we were weak, Eve. We vanished because they feared us. But if someone is asking for help, even out of fear, we answer, because that's what makes us human." Moments later, a low vibration spread through the fleet. Jump drives aligned, Energy levels peaked. Thousands of ships formed a triangle, formation around the flagship. Each one glowed faintly in the dark, ghostly, majestic, and terrifying. "All ships ready," Voss reported. "Fleet standing by for hyperspace jump." Alara raised her hand. "Then let's wake the stars." The void split open as blue light erupted across the nebula. A shockwave spread like thunder across space as the Deathworlder fleet vanished into hyperspace, their destination. The base. Dying world of the Zilari. Back on that world, Commander Varan was losing hope. The sky was gone, replaced by living darkness. His ships were falling, his people screaming through broken comms. He stood alone in his bunker, clutching a transmitter, whispering to himself, "Please, someone, anyone." Then suddenly the air around him crackled. The communication screen lit up. Static filled it for a moment, then cleared. A cold, calm voice spoke through the static. "Commander, Varan of the Zilari Dominion, your signal has been received." Varan froze. Who is this?" The voice paused before replying. "Fleet Command, United Terran Directorate. Hold your position. Help is coming." Varan blinked in disbelief. "Terran? I don't know that name." "You don't have to," the voice said softly. "You just have to survive." The signal ended, leaving Varan staring at the stars, and for the first time in years, he saw light breaking through the smoke, high above the ruined world. A tear opened in the sky, thousands of dark, silver ships emerged like a storm. Their hulls burned with the mark of a long-forgotten world. Earth, every sensor in the galaxy screamed, every government froze. Every old story suddenly felt real again. Humanity had returned, and the Black Fleet was awake. The sky above Zilari Prime was torn open. A storm of light and fire poured through the clouds as human warships appeared from hyperspace. Each vessel moved with silent precision, their dark hulls glowing faintly blue against the blackness. To the dying aliens below, they looked like gods descending from the heavens. But to those who remembered ancient history, they looked like the end itself. Commander Varan Thal stood frozen on the shattered balcony of his command post. His aide stumbled beside him, whispering, What are those ships?" Varan could barely speak. I don't know." But they answered our call. Then, through the thick smoke, the largest of the ships appeared. It was Oblivion's Edge, over 30 kilometers long, its structure older than most civilizations. Energy pulses rolled from its engines, turning the sky into waves of lightning, and from its bridge, Captain Alara Kane watched the planet below, her expression calm but heavy. "Eve, scan the planet," she ordered. "Reading mass destruction, Captain. 72% surface loss. Enemy activity detected. Life signatures unknown." Alara nodded. "Deploy recon drones. Prepare relief teams. I want eyes on the ground before we act." In another part of the galaxy, faraway governments and empires began to panic. Across star systems, communication networks filled with one repeating message. "Unidentified fleet detected in the Seraphis Arm. Energy readings. Terran origin." Old scholars gasped when they heard the name. The Terrans, the Deathworlders, the extinct ones. The race that vanished after the final silence, leaving behind ruins and nightmares. Whole species had built their legends on the fear of humanity. The predators from a world so dangerous that even its plants killed. And now that ancient terror had returned. In the Council of Virel, alien diplomats argued endlessly. "It's impossible," one shouted. "Humans are myths." Another slammed his claws on the table. "Then tell me why our sensors detect their technology." The chamber fell silent as the hologram of the human fleet appeared before them. A sight that none of them would forget. Back at Zilari Prime, the humans made contact. A small transmission reached Varan's headquarters. A voice, calm and controlled. "This is Fleet Command, United Terran Directorate. We have received your distress signal. Identify your enemy." Varan blinked, trying to find his words. They came from the void, creatures that eat metal and light. "We cannot fight them." "Understood," the voice replied. "Stand down. We will engage." Moments later, the sky erupted. Human dreadnoughts descended in formation, their kinetic cannons glowing white-hot. Every shot they fired tore through the swarm like paper. Where alien plasma failed, Human solid mass rounds struck with surgical precision. Each detonation lit up the atmosphere, thunder rolling across continents. The Zalari soldiers stared in disbelief. In hours, the swarm that had destroyed entire cities was being torn apart by human firepower. It wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. And yet, Ilara's voice remained calm as she issued commands. Maintain bombardment. Shield civilian sectors. Eve, keep biological scans active. I want samples of that swarm. Inside the alien command room, Varen and his officers watched as the enemy vanished. One of his lieutenants whispered, "Commander, they're saving us." Varen nodded slowly, but his face stayed pale. "Yes, but at what cost?" He looked up at the massive human ships blotting out the sun and felt something deep inside. Not gratitude, but fear, because every story he'd ever heard about humanity spoke of this power, the kind that could save or destroy entire worlds in a single choice. He sent a message. "This is Commander Varen. We owe you our lives." The reply came almost instantly. "Debt is irrelevant. We came because you asked for help. Stay inside your cities until operations are complete." There was no warmth, no pride, only the tone of soldiers doing their duty across the galaxy. More species turned their sensors toward Zalari space. They watched the humans move. They saw the precision of their fleets, their silent discipline, their impossible technology, and for the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy remembered the Deathworlders, the race that built weapons out of dying stars, the race that fought gods and refused to kneel. In the void, alien admirals whispered to one another, "If they have returned, will they rule again?" "No," another answered softly. "They don't rule. They end." On the bridge of Oblivion's edge, Eve's voice interrupted the silence. "Captain, the enemy has been eradicated. Remaining life signs are stable, but something unusual remains." Ilara turned. "Explain." "Energy patterns match classified human technology. The swarm's genetic signature, partially human in origin." The crew froze. Ilara's eyes narrowed. "That can't be right." "It is, Captain. The enemy we just destroyed may have been created by us." The bridge fell silent. Outside, the stars flickered as if listening. Ilara looked down at the dying planet below and whispered to herself, "Then our ghosts never really died." The fleet hovered in the sky, victorious yet uneasy. For the galaxy, humanity's return was a nightmare reborn. But for Ilara Kane, it was only the beginning, because now she needed to know the truth. Who created the swarm, and why had they left it waiting for humanity's return? The battlefield above Zalari Prime was quiet now. The swarm had been burned, shattered, erased. Only drifting black dust remained where billions of the creatures once moved. But on the human flagship Oblivion's edge, silence carried more weight than victory. Captain Ilara Kane stood at the command deck. Her gaze locked on the floating wreckage. Her crew moved carefully, scanning every piece of debris. "Anything?" she asked, her voice low. Engineer Mira shook her head. "No active enemies left, Captain. But the remains, they're strange. The cells react to our scans as if they know our tech." Ilara frowned. "Run a deep genetic trace. Check for any Terran markers." The AI Eve 9 responded immediately, its tone softer than usual. "Confirmed, Captain. The swarm carries fragments of human DNA, heavily mutated but unmistakable." The bridge went silent. Lieutenant Voss whispered, "That means we built them, but why would humanity ever make such monsters?" Ilara didn't answer. She just stared into the dark screen ahead, watching broken pieces of the swarm drift past, glowing faintly blue, the color of old human energy cores on the surface of the planet. The Zalari survivors gathered among the ruins. They looked up at the sky, watching the Black Fleet orbit their world like silent angels. Some knelt and prayed, others whispered in fear. Children asked their parents, "Are they gods?" But the adults had no answer, because the Deathworlders were something beyond gods. They were proof that legends breathe. Commander Varenthal stood outside his bunker as a beam of blue light descended before him. A human dropship landed, its doors opening with a hiss. From it stepped 3 armored figures, tall, silent, their suits bearing the old Earth insignia. The lead soldier removed her helmet. Captain Ilara Kane. Varen froze, his voice trembling. You came to save us." Ilara's eyes were calm, unreadable. "We came because you called." He looked behind her at the giant ship hovering above the clouds. "What are you?" he asked quietly. Alara's lips curved in a faint smile, a memory your galaxy tried to forget. Back in orbit, the fleet's sensors suddenly screamed. Eve's voice echoed through every channel. "Warning, multiple energy signatures inbound. Vector and unknown. Warp activity detected." Alara's head snapped toward the sky. "Put it on screen," she ordered. The main display lit up with dozens of red blips approaching at high speed. "Then hundreds more than identification," she demanded. "Confirmed. Galactic Coalition defense fleets. They are forming a blockade." Alara narrowed her eyes. "So, they finally remembered us." Lieutenant Voss glanced at her. "They think we're invaders, Captain." Alara sighed. "No, they know exactly who we are." Moments later, the communication line flickered on. A nervous alien admiral appeared. His face scaled. His voice sharp. "Unidentified Terran fleet. You are violating Coalition space. Power down your weapons and withdraw." Alara crossed her arms. "We just saved a planet you ignored." "You unleashed forbidden weapons," the alien barked. "Do you know what happens when humans return?" She tilted her head. "Yes. The galaxy remembers what fear feels like." The channel went silent. But the alien fleets didn't retreat. Thousands of ships formed a wall across the stars. Their guns glowing, Voss whispered. "Captain, they're charging weapons." Alara nodded slowly. "Then it begins again. A war that should never have happened." "Eve," she said, her voice calm but heavy. "Activate Protocol Black Sun." "Confirmed. Warning, activation may cause interstellar disruption." "Do it," Alara replied. "They've already decided what we are." Every human ship's hull shimmered as cloaking fields merged into one energy barrier. Dark clouds of plasma swirled around the fleet. Then silence. No sound, no light, just the void. The alien admirals on the other side watched their sensors go blank, their ships blind. One whispered, "They vanished." But the humans hadn't vanished. They were moving. Through the darkness, unseen and unheard, their weapons ready, Alara's voice echoed across her fleet's channels. "We will not fire first. But if they open fire, end it fast." In the next instant, a nervous alien captain misread the radar and launched a warning shot. That was all it took. The void exploded. Human railguns fired invisible slugs faster than light, tearing through the first wave in seconds. Entire battle groups were reduced to drifting debris. The aliens screamed across their comms, "They're everywhere! We can't see them!" Alara stood still, her face unreadable. "End hostilities," she said quietly. "Disable their ships, not their worlds." The battle lasted only 7 minutes. When it ended, hundreds of alien fleets floated helpless in orbit. No planets destroyed, no civilian loss, and only silence and defeat. For the first time in ages, the galaxy understood again why humanity had once ruled. Not out of cruelty, but out of precision. As the human ships turned away, Eve's voice broke the silence. "Captain, message received from the alien coalition flagship." "Put it through," Alara said. The alien admiral appeared again. His tone different now, quieter, humbler. "Terran, you could have destroyed us. Why didn't you?" Alara's gaze was steady. "Because this isn't your war. It's ours. You just forgot how it began." She ended the call and looked out toward the stars. Somewhere beyond them, something waited. The truth of the swarm's creation. A truth older than every empire still standing. Eve's lights dimmed slightly. "Captain, shall we pursue the origin signal?" Alara nodded slowly. "Yes, it's time to finish what our ancestors started." The Deathworlder fleet aligned once again, engines roaring like thunder. The stars stretched and vanished as they jumped into the void behind them. The galaxy trembled, because now everyone knew the truth. Humanity wasn't back for conquest. They were back for answers. The stars stretched into lines of silver as the Deathworlder fleet tore through hyperspace. Every ship hummed with energy, their hulls glowing faint blue against the dark. Inside the command bridge of Oblivion's edge, Captain Alara Kane stood silent. Her reflection in the glass showed a face both human and haunted. "Eve," she said softly, "show me the origin of the swarm." The AI's voice filled the room, calm as ever. "Signal trace complete, Captain. Source located at the Carthan Rift. Coordinates deep within abandoned Terran space." Alara frowned. That's impossible. The Carthan Rift was destroyed in the Exodus War. Apparently not, Eve replied. Energy signatures indicate an active research facility, human in design. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Lieutenant Voss muttered, "We're chasing ghosts from our own history." Ilara nodded slowly. Ghosts that learned to kill us. When the fleet emerged from hyperspace, the view stunned them all. A shattered system floated in the void. Once a Terran colony, now a graveyard of broken moons and drifting wreckage. At its heart lay a single intact structure, a massive station orbiting a dead world. Its metal surface still gleamed faintly. Like something waiting to wake. Identify, Ilara ordered. Designation, Project Erebos. Status active. Purpose, classified. Mira, the engineer, gasped. That's one of ours. From before the silence. Ilara's face tightened. So humanity built this. They approached carefully. Guns charged, sensors locked. The station sent no signal. No defense, only silence then as Oblivion's edge drew near. The station's systems flickered alive, a voice. Human, ancient, mechanical, echoed through the comms. Welcome back. Captain Ilara Kane, you are late. The entire bridge froze. Ilara's eyes widened. Who are you? Project Overseer, the voice replied. I was built to wait for your return. A docking sequence engaged automatically. Pulling the flagship closer, Ilara and her team armed themselves and boarded the silent structure. Inside, corridors stretched endlessly, walls covered in Terran insignia, symbols no one had seen for millennia. Screens flickered with broken images, and scientists, soldiers, and creatures, mutated humans in glass chambers screaming in silence. Mira whispered, My God, these were experiments. Eve's voice came through her wristcom. Records confirmed genetic splicing between human DNA and adaptive nanotech. Objective, create self-replicating soldiers. Ilara felt her stomach twist. The swarm. Yes, Eve said. They were meant to be humanity's perfect weapon. Ilara clenched her fists. They were supposed to protect us, not destroy galaxies. Correction, Eve replied. The project failed. When humanity vanished, the swarm was left without command. It evolved. The lights flickered and the ancient voice spoke again. We built them to defend the species. We never expected the species to disappear. Ilara looked around the silent lab, filled with machines that still pulsed faintly. We didn't disappear, she said quietly. We hid because we became what we feared. Moments later, the old station began to shake. Warning lights flashed red. Alarms howled through the corridors. Captain, Eve's voice warned. Containment failure detected. The swarm residue is reactivating. Ilara shouted, Back to the ship, now! They ran through collapsing halls as walls cracked open. From the broken tanks, black fluid oozed and twisted into shapes, half metal, half flesh whispering like wind through steel. The humans fired pulse rifles, but every hit only slowed the things, not stopped them. When Ilara reached the airlock, she turned once more toward the station and whispered, I'm sorry we made you. Then she pressed the detonator. From orbit, Oblivion's edge unleashed its cannons. The blast tore through the station, vaporizing it into white fire. The shockwave spread across the dead system, scattering the last fragments of Project Erebos into dust. Later on the silent bridge, Ilara stood with her crew, watching the destruction fade into starlight. Lieutenant Voss broke the silence. It's over. Captain. Ilara shook her head slowly. No, it's never over when the galaxy remembers your sins. She turned to Eve. Prepare a broadcast. Send this message to every system and encrypt it unfiltered. Message content, Captain? Ilara took a breath and began to speak. To every civilization that can hear my voice, you called for help and we answered. We are not your gods nor your monsters. We are what you made us fear, survivors. Humanity is not returning to rule. We are returning to make sure no one repeats our mistakes. The Deathworlders have awakened. Remember what that means. Eve transmitted the message through every beacon, every relay, every hidden channel of space. Across thousands of worlds, alien species froze as the signal arrived. Some trembled, some prayed, some celebrated, but all understood one thing: humanity was watching again. In the quiet aftermath, Oblivion's edge drifted near the edge of the rift. Ilara looked out into the infinite black. Her expression was calm now, not proud, not cold and just tired. Mira approached. Captain, where do we go now? Ilara smiled faintly. Home, Voss looked confused. But Captain, Earth is gone. Ilara turned toward the stars, her voice barely above a whisper. Then we'll find where it went. The ship's engines roared to life. The rest of the fleet followed, forming a formation so vast it looked like a constellation reborn. And as they disappeared into hyperspace, a final message echoed through the galactic net. This time, the Deathworlders don't come to conquer. They come to remember who they were. And in the far reaches of the universe, a single quiet voice answered the message. Welcome home, humanity.